Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' weeks this week?
What's up, guys?
Andy, Chad?
I'm doing okay this week, and the reason I'm doing okay this week is I had a person that I have known for a very, very long time who looked right at me and said, "Man, you look good on camera." I don't know what you guys are doing for me, but I was like, okay.
It's all in the production, Chad.
All right.
It's all in the production.
And I was like, it's too early in my fitness process right now for it to be that. So, yeah.
So you look good on camera.
Apparently so.
I always
said I had a face for radio.
Yeah.
So.
I actually, I had somebody say, "Man, you look like a movie star," and I was like, "I know."
Oh boy, here we go.
It's getting deep in here. It's getting deep in here.
What you're saying is you're available for the reboot of the Jason Bourne series.
Oh yeah, I'm
right?
there. I'm there. I mean, come on, look at me. Come on, Andy.
They wouldn't even be able to tell the difference.
No. Oh, we could get into here. I want to take it to this intellectual approach with stuff, but we're not going there. Andy, how was your week, man?
It's been really good, busy, good, very optimistic. Got a lot of wonderful things going. A lot of great energy with different groups that I get to be a part of, and really looking forward to going and seeing my city, San Antonio, and visiting my people down there, and doing some work that's very important for our company and the future of our company. So I'm excited about it. It'll be good.
Very good. Very good. I'd have to say, because I work from home quite a bit, and I have a 2-year-old. I don't know, most people know this. Whenever my little Timothy's the last one in the mix, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, this is just a lot of work. 2-year-olds, man, it's like he hit 2, and you know that saying, terrible twos. None of my kids really had terrible 2s, and Timothy's just laying it on thick. But I will say this.
And then comes the 3s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the trying 3s. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, when you really sit back and think about it, I'm blessed. I'm blessed because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to spend a lot of time with their youngsters. Especially in today's economy, we're in this 2-parent working household. There was other times in my life when my kids were that age and I worked 60, 70 hours a week, and I missed a lot of that. And I'm just very blessed that I get to spend this time with little Timothy. I just got to say that. Both because just with as much as there's the trying times, you get to watch this young human being develop and go from, babble to words. And then we're getting ready to get into the next phase, which is just watching them just explode, their brain just grow, their what they can and can't do, independence, the desire to communicate, the whole thing. So I would say, even though some weeks are tough, I'm just a very blessed person. So, okay, Chad. You're the local guy that knows all of the local happenings.
What's the haps?
What is going on with the local stuff this week, Chad?
Boy, where do you start? I mean, there was only one meeting to go to this week for, those governmental agencies, which is nice. I mean, that means that I'm able to breathe a little bit, and it frees up time to do things like walk into our new restaurant on the south side and just pick the owner's brain for a little bit and hear his story, which is great,
Nice.
So that's in case anybody wants to know, we're talking about On Fire Bar and Grill. And that story also explains where La Fogata went.
Okay.
If you remember that food truck.
I do.
So you can't run a food truck and a full-service restaurant at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so when your dream has always been to be in a restaurant, full-service restaurant, you take that opportunity and you put the truck in mothballs, right?
Neat. Neat.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I was able to do this week, was able to catch up with those guys, which is nice. And then I had the city meeting, and the city had what was a light agenda. It was only about an hour long, but there was some stuff that went on in that hour, which is pretty normal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I enjoyed watching that meeting. I watched it last night, and I really appreciate everything the DFY does for our community. Very informative. Every time they come around, they're informative. They have a message. They're beating the drum, and I think that it's effective in working to help educate, inform parents and students alike. When you talk about the statistics of the younger you are, the more likelihood if you indulge or engage in any kind of substance use, the percentages that, are very eye-opening.
Yeah.
You're 13, you try alcohol or a substance, and you have a 48% chance of dependency for the rest of your life. I mean, man, and then we get into a lot of stuff. We could go down this thing where we were just talking before the program, how important it is to identify that substance use and mental health usually run hand in hand.
Yeah.
One
of the things about their discussion was that they talked about it a little bit, and they don't talk about it in the same terms I do, but the idea that your sense of right and wrong, your processing of those things is not really fully developed until your mid-20s.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of a big deal. And, when I'm doing all this juvenile intake crap, I mean, I have to continually think about that. That, I'm dealing with people who do not have developed impulse control. I'm dealing with people who don't have this. It's just physically undeveloped.
Yeah.
Right? And so DeFi and the whole strategy is to try and help kids delay getting into whatever as long as possible. And I was thinking about this during their presentation. When you start saying that part of your brain's really not done or not developed until you're 25 or even 26 for men, man, it's no wonder we lose so many people during the college years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
wowzers.
That long-term critical thinking, right? They just I know this as a parent of youth, and the question comes up, what were you thinking? Why would you do that? And the reality is that there's a block there. They don't have enough life experience. The brain is not developed enough. So it's very important for us as parents, guardians, caregivers, the whole mix, to realize that this is a nurturing process, and that if they're not taught, they don't know. And so patience is key, letting there be enough life experience and choices that they make, in the hopes that there's a learning experience that can come from that without it being something that costs them for the rest of their life. My own personal experience included. So what else you got for us, Chad?
Themian Park.
Okay. Yeah.
They talked Themian Park. And that's a project that is kind of exciting, even for those of us who aren't. I mean, my season of life, I'm not going to be doing a bunch of youth sports anymore. Okay? And that's where the bulk of the work is going to get done. And I probably am going to flat out refuse to get into pickleball because, not to be a jerk about everything, but seriously, that's an old person sport, and I am not going to be an old person.
Chad,
You're getting there, bro.
I was going to say,
I might rack the years up, but I'm not going to be an old guy. Okay.
Now you're changing my mind on it, because I was actually thinking, hey, that park is just a 30-second walk from my house. So I was going to invite Chad or Andy over to play some pickleball at the court just down the road. I think
we are there, bro.
Well, that might be a way to convince me, but
have you ever tried to take off quick?
I'm feeling pretty,
in the last 6 months.
Yeah,
I'm actually hit the pavement fast.
Whoa,
I'm feeling pretty good about my pace on my afternoon runs. So I'm just saying.
I'm worried about going out and getting the mail in my hips, man.
I refuse to grow old.
Yeah, this winter, I'm just saying, I'm going to be a little more careful on the way out to the mailbox.
Okay. Well, you got a long walk out to the mailbox, man.
Yeah.
You might want to start doing that in the car on the way to town.
Stretch
but-
before you go.
But no, it's a cool project. I think the number they shared last night was 1.76 million is where it stands right now. And for those who don't know, I mean, this is all coming out from a proposal by the Rayler Foundation, is who came up with this concept. They're also the ones that are going to be charged with raising most of or all of the money for this, right? And so the plan, as it stands right now, is to put in a small, and I'm going to use that word, and stress that word, small youth soccer field, and they want that to be AstroTurf. Okay. The plan is to put in 3 pickleball courts, couple basketball courts, two baseball facilities. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good going from memory here.
Good stuff.
They want to pave a parking lot that is currently owned by the school district that is across the street, so that, you know, the thought is that people won't park the neighborhoods full, but I have a feeling people still will. And then a shelter that the city would really like to see built in there, and then some bathrooms, which I know that it was the city who kind of led the charge on trying to get that put on the plan, but considering that this park for basically 10 months a year is really used pretty heavily by students over at Santa Fe for PE and whatever else. I don't see anything bad from putting bathrooms in over there. And this is one of Newton's oldest parks that they're looking at doing all this work in.
Well, it's definitely one of the oldest neighborhoods. I mean, when you look at, like, my house was built in 1888, and it seems like every 3 houses, you know, now, of course, they filled it in because the way we live is different. We don't have a big old shed out back for our horse and buggy or anything anymore. But, you know, that's an old neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of houses. That's originally, I mean, that's your original Newton.
Yeah. So this park was originally constructed and called West Park, and it was constructed at the same time as another park called East Park. Both of those parks have changed names for different reasons. This one is now Themian Park. The other one is Military Park, and they were both done at the same time. Back in the, I want to say 18s.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact year in my memory bank, but
Probably late 1800s.
yeah. So it's an old spot.
Seen a lot of life over its time.
It's seen a lot, and you know, if they're going to continue to use this for PE, and the school is going to continue to use this, and I think they will. I mean, it's a great spot for it. And the school doesn't have a playground of its own either, by the way. Yeah, I at some point something needed to be done to it. It's kind of cool that private entities have stood up and said, this is what we want, and we're going to try and figure out a way to pay for it.
Yeah. Best way to go is public-private partnerships. Always. I don't know of anybody that poo-poos that idea, but I'm sure there's somebody.
Oh, there's always somebody.
There's
somebody's.
Somebody's. And then, you know, with the, you know, social media being as it is, I mean, there's your platform to speak to the rest of the world from, or whatever. But okay, Andy, do you got anything to say about anything on that when it comes to the local things that Chad brought up?
Not really. I mean, Themian Park is a really cool project that I get to kind of sit in on a little bit. And we had a meeting Sunday discussing it, and got a bunch of information out to the team that's helping. We had a individual come in and talk to us about some opportunities to raise funds for that and how we're going to go about doing that with one organization. We have several involved, of course, but there's already decent amounts coming in, and we'll be announcing some stuff real soon with what's going on there. And who knows, I would just pass on names on to you, and you can talk to people. But there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are trickling our way, and it's a big task. 1.7 million. I thought it was 1.6, but that number changed, I guess, in one meeting from Sunday to Tuesday.
Well, they went in and redid some of their estimates,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but it's still pretty close. I mean, if you're estimating once you get past, $1 million, a couple 100,000 is pretty, it's pretty reasonable. Not shocking to me, but yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's a good unifier. It gets the Railer Foundation on the hook to really live out its mission, and gets a project that's community oriented, not just for youth sports, but sports and activities. We can see concerts going on out there, movie nights, family activities that are put on downtown Newton to help that area, to bring attention to how beautiful our downtown really is, and all the energy that's out there that we want to help create for the businesses and the shops and the people that help us keep it what it is. Because tell you what, you get people that aren't from here that come into town, and we do a pretty good job. And downtown's important to a lot of people, and it is to me, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of downtown, the one local thing I want to bring up after mentioning that I watched the city commission last night. Another thing, if you get a chance, go to Newton, Kansas city government. They have a Facebook page. They also have a YouTube that you can look up and you can watch these meetings. I encourage anybody to do so. Sometimes they're a little bit, for lack of a better word, boring. They can be at times, but
that's why people pay me.
Yeah, right.
They pay me to sit through the boring stuff and tell them what's important.
Read the Kansan. Subscribe to the Kansan, as I always say. I just got my notification that my subscription is going to continue to go for the next year. So obviously this is my year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Chad, for all that information that you provide. I know there's a lot of work that goes into it just for me to be able to read, 1,000 words or 1,500 words on a topic, but I appreciate it. I also appreciate any time that I've ever called you, and I think anybody's ever called you, that you've clarified or been somebody that will also work the article after the article's written.
It depends on the voice tone of the call, I'm thinking, right, Chad?
Yeah, don't come at me too hard.
No profanity, folks. No profanity.
And
profanity.
If you're calling to complain to me, make sure that it's something that I actually did.
Yeah. It was an article you wrote. It was in the Kansan.
You're
getting yelled at for the school district decisions.
I get yelled at for all kinds of decisions that I didn't make. So.
I was reading in the paper, and you're like, no. That was the Wichita Eagle that you were reading. Oh,
yeah, I've done that one.
My bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
Call the guy who actually wrote that, but I get it all, man.
Yeah, but okay.
But as we're talking about, and some of those people, when they call, they want to grind their pound of flesh, right?
Yeah.
And some of them say some things that to you or some other folks, and to the guy on the other end of the line, it may sound kind of benign, but I tell you, you're sticking a knife in me, and you're twisting it, and it hurts. I think, I don't know, and I haven't got a guarantee on this, but I think that I have saved our TV guide again. So you can stop calling me and telling me that the only reason you get a paper on Saturday is for the TV guide. You can stop telling me that you don't care. You don't want to spend $1.50 or whatever it is we're charging right now
Can I get
for
in
anything
here?
other than that.
Can I get in here?
Yeah,
Sure.
have at it. Shoot.
So you have a TV guy cell that came together to come at you, to call you, to make sure they kept that TV guide.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Good organization, people out there.
Yeah.
They made it happen, or at least hopefully. We
Well,
don't,
advocated and made it happen.
you don't make the final check, but you're in there.
I probably shouldn't say this in public, but I'm going to. I was saying at the time when they were talking about having us reduce our page count on Saturday, and in order to do that, they wanted to eliminate the TV guide, and when they did that, I was like, okay, so you want us to publish that online only? Yeah. And my response was, this is a decision that absolutely shows you do not understand print readers in any way, shape, or form.
And we still got a ton of them, don't we?
Or demographic.
Yes, we still have print
we got
readers.
a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's a big group.
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, the dirty little secret for all of newspaper companies out there is that print is what pays the bills. It's what pays the bills. And in markets like this one, I mean, we've got a ton of business owners who do not understand digital. They don't want to understand digital. They don't care about digital. I mean, they really don't.
Yeah.
The conversation when we walk out there and we start talking about being on our web and digital advertising options that we offer, over and over and over again, we hear, well, I don't need that. I'm the only guy in town doing this. So if somebody's Googling, see, they don't understand it. If somebody's Googling where they can buy whatever in Newton, I'm at the top of the list. I don't need, you do need.
Yeah.
You really do need, but they don't understand and they don't care.
Well, it
And
depends.
they buy, those guys buy print.
It depends, right? Like, if you're going to be in business in 10 years, you do need. But if that's not your plan, so be it. Write it out for the next, they probably got 5-6 years left to not start making those transitions. But in the end of the day, the reality is, you've alluded to it many times with AI. A lot of people in my circle don't like it. And we're the people that people didn't like 18 years ago. For the same type of reasons, just reinvent it again. And faster and more aggressive, which is AI. And so if you're just getting the very beginning of the change that happened 15 to 17 years ago now, I mean, you're so many plays behind.
Yeah.
But it's the reality of it, right?
Right.
I mean, Connie needs to sell the digital advertising for the future of the company.
Yeah.
It's where it's going. We still need to love and take care of our readers that get the print. There's a lot of them out there. Can't disrespect that. But at the end of the day, that transition is happening.
Yeah.
So we've got to have a balance, right?
Yep.
What is
You
that
know,
balance?
I got a subscription cancellation from somebody just this last week, and they're mad because we were planning to take away the TV guide, and they're mad that we haven't been using the Amish cook column in print. You know, and I'm like reading this, I'm like, so do you read a word of what I do? Do you any of it?
So they get your papers for the funnies just in a different way. And they're not reading them.
They cited the comics too. Because, you know, over time the comics page has changed. It's much different than it was 20 years ago. Sorry, I'm sorry, dude. You know, and when we transitioned away, here's one for you. When we transitioned away from the Alley Oop comic strip, think about that. We got those same things. And as you sit there, and so to the end user, to the guy who's planning to write me that letter, complaining about all those things, understand, one, those are decisions I do not make. I have some input sometimes, but there's a lot of those things, those are decisions I don't have any active, I mean, when you talk about comics, I have no active participation in that. Two, not only are they decisions I don't make, they're decisions being made by people who do not understand you and they do not understand me.
Yeah, but there's also, I gotta say, Chad,
and three, when you say that's the only reason that you're getting the paper, that hurts.
okay, but I gotta say this, okay, before we move on, okay, because we're getting ready to get into our national topics here, but two things. One, usually business models change based upon information, not just a whim. So the fact that you may be the person that professes that the only thing you're getting a paper for is the Amish cookbook, the comics, and my TV guide. Well, you have to accept the fact that you as an individual are somebody that's the minority. Because most people are getting it for the other information. And so if that's the case, the business model proves that. I don't know how many times I can say it. That the truth of the matter is like Andy said, AI or anything, digital marketing, anything. All these things are changing because it's a profitable. It's a projection of a profitable business model that has been followed because it has been proven to be profitable. It's not something that's like, I think we just might try to change this around. We're just gonna do away with this, and this because we want to piss off everybody that does our pay. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So it's okay to be somebody who those are the only things they subscribe to the paper for, but you also have to accept the fact that, I mean, I hate to say it, but we're gonna go back to this. You're not the center of the universe. 2, Chad, I'm going to tell you right now, no matter what anybody says to you about that, the likelihood of that being the only reason that they subscribe to your paper is probably just not honest. And I think it's time for people need to wake up to the fact that not everybody's honest. Okay, we live in a world,
here's
and I
what
mean,
that goes
I gotta
to.
say, let me finish my thought here, okay?
Sure.
But especially in social media, not everybody that comments on something knows what they're talking about. Not everybody that has something to say has something of value to say. Not everybody's coming from an educated perspective. Not everybody that says something, once again, is true. There are people that will lie, and they will lie just to lie. They will lie to be a part of something that they want to be a part of, but it doesn't even have to be based in truth. And that's when you start finding out, oh, that's when all of it stops. See, is when all of a sudden the excitement, the thrill of being engaged in the same thing that somebody else is being engaged in, or, you know, it's it's familiarity of, oh man, well, this happened to me too. No, it didn't happen to you. You're just being dishonest. You didn't see it, right? You didn't experience it, but I'm going to say that I did because that gives me the opportunity to be a part of something. And really, people, once again, if I'll say it again, okay? Not everybody is honest. In fact, I gotta say, especially in the political world, the farther we go down this,
are full of shit.
I mean, you said it like it is.
Yeah,
it's the reality that most people nowadays.
I'll take that.
And you know, maybe I shouldn't say most. I'll correct myself because I don't want to believe that it's most. Okay, but I do, and I've watched this, and I've been a part of this public life long enough that I am fully aware, eyes wide open, okay, here, that not everybody is honest. In fact, I've said it over and over again, especially when it comes to politics. Talk about some manipulation there. We talked about identity politics, and I'll get off my rant and give Chad what he was going to say, and then move on to some national topics that I'm sure will get people all in a frenzy, Chad.
The temperature went up.
Yeah.
I just don't have time for it.
It does.
You know, it goes,
did.
I swear on
did.
everything. It's like,
So,
you know, I mean,
This
come
is
on,
the deal.
people. Come on.
Before you make that social media post or you make that phone call, and it doesn't have to be the phone call to me. It can be, I mean, whatever. I don't care who you're mad at. Ask yourself, am I just wanting to grind a pound of flesh here? Be honest with yourself about that.
I think they are. I
Okay?
think I've concluded.
And if that's all you want, go talk to your wife. Don't go talk to me.
Oh, there's where 50-60% of marriages in, Chad.
Just seriously.
He just contributed to it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he's for it.
You're for divorce, Chad. That's what I heard. Hey, I'll tell you. Okay,
I'm just telling you to do what I do.
Let's speedboat around.
Final word on local stuff, okay? The truth of the matter is that I believe I'm hitting the nail on the head. And the nail on the head is that we live in a very fear-driven society. And the first thing that people do when it comes to fear is fight or flight. And so instead of flighting, okay, because there's nowhere to go anymore, all right? If you're afraid of something, you move to Canada and what? Things will just miraculously get better? You know, that's not the truth. That's prolonging you dealing with who you are in the situation and experiences that you're experiencing.
I would not want to be in journalism in
Canada or anywhere other than the United States for that matter.
Dude,
look at what's going on in the UK
some of the stuff that's happening over there?
Yes.
Oh, I can't.
Yes.
You would get thrown in jail.
We think
I know.
because
thrown
you would
in
get so
jail.
mad. You wouldn't even agree with something somebody's saying, but you would get in the fight so hard because of the principle. They'd come after you quick.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about.
That's
media
scary,
bias.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Wild.
it's scary, and it's happening. It's happening, and it's not happening here, but it's definitely happening. And so it's interesting, and
It's knocking at our door.
Yeah, and you know what? This is what we'll talk about next week. Just national topics next week. I would like to talk about free press journalism. Okay, and this idea.
That's a tee up for you.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, the idea that now we have public officials, okay, that are calling for there to be a restriction on free speech because it either is not the free speech that they like, they pretend as though there's no credibility to it, although there might be some credibility to it. And now we're getting to a point where they're trying to take and I take with the good with the bad, but well, if you're incorrect or you're saying something that's not completely factual or fact checked, then you don't have a right to speak. We need to remove that. We need to limit that because people will be deceived by what they're reading. And so now it's the government's responsibility to ensure that everything that you say and do is fact checked by whom? Them? Okay, so moving on to these fun things. Okay. Most people know that about this time of year, the Supreme Court decides what cases that they're going to hear and what they're not. And when I was looking over things that we could do on the program, the national topic, I thought, well, maybe instead of bouncing around so much, we'll focus on one entity in and of itself. And so in this case, in this episode, it'd be the Supreme Court. All right. And the cases that they're hearing. The big cases that they're hearing right now, I'd like to cover and just kind of get your guys' opinion on. And I'll say this too. Most people should understand, if you don't, just a little lesson here, that if a state legislature passes a law that says, well, for instance, Tennessee passed a law that banned transgender care for youth. Anybody under the 18 is not allowed to get any transgender or gender affirming care in the change or whatever in that realm. We'll just call it that, okay? Because I'm not a medical doctor, so obviously I'm not an expert on this. Now, if there's a problem with that, then it goes to the legal course. And the legal course, the end all for that is the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is hearing whether or not Tennessee's ban on transgender care for juveniles is unconstitutional or constitutional. And I would just like to get, and I know it's political, but what are your guys' thoughts on gender affirming care for youth?
Woo! That's a hot tamale.
I'm gonna give you my opinion on the court case.
Okay.
And this is a hot tamale. If abortion is left up to the states, this should be left up to the states.
I can't disagree with that. Even though my personal opinion is, with the mental health and the disruptions that's out there and some of the reactive decisions people are making to allow a child or to push a child or to have a child go through that. Gender affirming care is what they're calling it, which is basically brutally discarding parts and changing your body
up to that
surgically.
Yeah.
My personal feeling is barbaric, but the state should deal with that at the state level. Whether I like it or not, that's part of this experiment, this American dream, this opportunity for freedom. And I think people need to move to the states that allow them to live the way they think is better, to keep some sort of organization. So yeah, man, I mean, I think it's barbaric. I think it's unbelievable. I feel bad for, when you look at the statistics and the suicide rates and the things that are happening with that community, it's gone up when they've tried to make it go down by doing some of the stuff that they think is helping. We're actually finding out quite the opposite with statistics. Data's there. You can't argue with it. Smarter people than me have already put all that stuff out there. There have been people that gone in to justify it that found out, oh my gosh, we're hurting people. But that doesn't matter. In this case, Chad, I'm standing alongside you. As nasty as that is the state should decide, in my opinion. That's a state issue.
The 10th Amendment basically says that unless the federal government has taken the authority in something, okay, that the authority then rests with the state. At the end of the day, that's kind of what it says. Well, the federal government has refused to take authority in at least one individual health decision that is to be made by individuals. Okay, they have not taken the authority. They did through the Supreme Court and a court decision. They did. That decision has been reversed. And the Supreme Court said this is the state's responsibility.
Let me jump on this real
And
quick.
so
I don't want
that's how I feel about this one, too.
I don't want to interrupt you too much, but the Supreme Court was never put in place to make laws.
That's correct. They were
And
put in place to
the only
decide,
law that I know that they've ever made was the abortion situation. Is that correct? Can you fact check me on that?
I will fact check you on
I
that.
believe I'm right. I'm about 90% sure I'm right on that. So
the Supreme Court is there
get
to
on the comments, do your thing.
No,
Yeah.
the Supreme
But
Court's
is
job
Andy
is
right?
to determine whether or not a law is constitutional or not.
Not to make the law and push it to everybody
Right.
from the
Well,
that is
but
not the way that
they
was
were
structured
asked
to
to
be.
make a decision.
Good call.
They interpret
law.
law. They don't make law.
Yeah, and I was going to say
It's a
this
big
too.
difference there.
But and let's talk about this because there is a difference between state and federal law, right? So interestingly enough, the federal government can make a law that is applies to all 50 states.
But does the Supreme Court do that?
The Supreme Court does do that because if the federal if the federal legislature makes a law that says we're going to ban transgender care in the United States of those that are under the age of 18, then if it's sued, it goes to the Supreme Court to determine whether or not the federal government is constitutional in their belief that they can do X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
And
Does the
same
government
thing
have
goes-
the right to do it?
Yes, but in this situation, I agree. I concur with you guys because what's happening is this is not a federal law that's been passed. This is a state law. So then their determination becomes whether or not Tennessee has the right or whether it's constitutional for Tennessee's legislature to enact a ban concerning gender affirming care.
And the flip side of this argument is going to be that we're taking people's rights away for things that they want to do. And so we're putting the screws on them, forcing them to do stuff that, as an American, you shouldn't tell me what I can and can't do. Kind of the libertarian mindset.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So this leads us into some other things. that
Which
are
I have a
being
lot
decided.
of in me, by the way, just for the record.
Well, you know, and I think as we
Yes, you do.
progress forward, I think what's happening, and I'm seeing this pendulum swing back the other way, and I was going to mention this about as far as us making, because I would agree in this situation, if we're going to split hairs, that if Tennessee would like to ban XYZ, or these states would ban, like, you know, the hot topic of abortion, let's say, then whether or not that's constitutional is determined, and then each state should have the right to determine whether or not they are going to do that. But I will add this point. It's, you know, if something is legal in the state of Kansas and you live in Oklahoma and it's not legal, then in very few instances can you run across the border, go get whatever done you want done, and then go home. Or, I mean, that gets into a real slippery slope in a lot of different ways.
it's happening in Kansas with abortion right now.
Yeah.
People from Texas and other places are coming here to do what they need to do because their state's not allowing it. And there's a lot of different arguments. I don't want to kind of get too far into the details on that, but that is happening.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And, okay, so another one would be, and just wondering if this would be
We're
the
going to get
same.
flagged with those words we're saying, by
Oh,
the way.
yeah.
Those
Oh, don't
algorithms.
worry about it. It's
You-
we're having a discussion.
You can say the same
here.
thing about medical marijuana.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we've got states all the way around us. No problem.
Yeah.
But you can't do that here.
So we got our people taking off to
You
go do
bet.
what they need to do and coming back this
You
way.
bet.
Yeah.
And then there's risk when they get back
Where
here.
do you guys think all those THC vials that are going into the vapes out at the high school are coming from?
Yeah, yeah. Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma.
That's where it's coming from.
Mostly Colorado,
It's
I
no
still
secret.
think.
Missouri, even. Missouri.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
so basically, you know, when we're talking about these kinds of issues, this is where states' rights get messy,
Yeah.
real messy.
Yeah.
Because what's good for Colorado, you know, we may not think is good for Kansas, but guess what? It's gonna affect us.
Well, I've long believed this, okay, and this will transition off into the next state thing that they're looking at. I've long believed that the state of Kansas needs to pass legislation that is a protection for individuals who are crossing through our state from any state that allows for there to be medicinal marijuana prescribed to an individual, and as long as they are found with their state ID, their prescription, and the substance that they are prescribed to be able to freely go across the state of Kansas without being criminalized. We do that with any other situation. If I had surgery and I'm a Colorado resident and I come to Kansas to visit my parents and I get pulled over and I have a prescription and the prescription is where it needs to be and everything's right as rain, then they don't arrest me for possession of opiates.
Sure, but here's the thing. There's going to have to be some limits in there.
Yeah.
Because if you're smart and that law is not limited, you can go through here with a blasted trunk full.
No, that's what I'm saying. In their prescription, like what I'm saying, in their prescription, because nobody
got a prescription.
Yeah, but there's also laws even in the state of Colorado.
And who's to say that they're not traveling for a couple of weeks?
As they say, the devil's in the details, right?
Yeah.
And that's why some of these things get pushed. So that bill will have big gaps in it. And it's not that it was done intentionally. It's just this is how this works. I mean, we went back with one of our state representatives that's very involved, very easy to get a hold of, answers every one of my email addresses. Full disclosure, there's probably a reason for that because I know him and I see him several times a week sometimes. And sometimes I don't see him for weeks, but because we're both busy. But at the end of the day, though, I believe he has a good track record of answering our superintendent at the USD 373. And there was a gap in something that they did. And all you can do is explain it. And it wasn't like it was done to hurt us, but it hurt us. Yeah. And until you communicate that to them, they don't know how to fix it the next session because they can't fix it now. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have to get in. They have to. It's a process. Yeah. But so this bill, I don't know everything that's in it. There's nuances in there that I'm sure drive me nuts. And there's some things that might make sense to me if I read it, depending on how it's written. But there will be gaps in those things. And I'm curious to see how lazily it was written and what the intention was and where this goes. But I do believe it's a state issue.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then moving on to what would be considered, and I'm just going to lead with this, that after what we just said, flavored vapes are banned in California. Are they legal? The Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not a ban on e-flavored cigarettes is unconstitutional.
My answer's not changing much on some of this stuff, man.
That if the state of California wants for that to be the case, then that's the case.
It lies at the state. And I know the marketing schema to send those things for kids and to target kids. It is. And it's working. I mean, you got kids in 5th and 6th grade that are getting a hold of those things from their parents and passing them around to their friends. And they're getting addicted to these high levels of nicotine really early. And I understand the premise of why they're doing it, and this is some of that pandering that you do, yet you're going to cut a penis off of a child that feels like they're a girl at 12 or whatever, and then you're going to ban vapes, the flavor, and because you feel like you justify that that's right, but again, that's the mess of the state. Let them deal with it internally, let the people call it out that are there. I'm going to attach it to this. You have this election thing that's going on. It's a little bit of a nuance, but Kansas is all right. I understand why people are mad and they think, Fulton County and Georgia had some issues, and that's pretty evident there was issues there. But as a whole, the majority of the country as a whole in Kansas, that's not my fight. Mm-hmm. I mean, my fight is not there. I mean, if you want to fight those fights, go to Georgia and help them with that or do what you got to do. Or help them raise money or whatever they need to do for their lawyers. But Kansas, when it comes to elections, is pretty dang safe. We were up there already on the charts of protected elections, and we added like 16 new things over the last 2 years from what we've learned from what we've seen around the country to make it even better. And locally at the county level, we have a rock star.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
In Rick Pifo. Yeah. And we have some people that are attacking him because of the rhetoric that's coming from other states.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, that's not all wrong. I've seen some stuff that really freaks me out. I'm going, wow, this is dangerous. That's scary territory. But in Harvey County, man, and in Kansas, that's not my fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
You're
Stay
right.
in your lane, right?
Yep. So, again, I mean, if we can't decide from one state to the next, and the federal government has not been able to decide whether or not they want to actually regulate some of these things. You know, THC vials, you can get them in Colorado, can't get them here. So why are we raising an issue over the flavoring? I mean, it's a state decision. It's a state level decision. This sounds like such a cop-out, but at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Well, and especially if they decide that it's not unconstitutional, which means then that the reversal of that is not unconstitutional. So it kicks it back to your legislative branch. If you don't like that and you want there to be flavored cigarettes, then what you do is you go and you
Lobby at the state level.
work it out, elect new people, and get them to decide whether or not that's the case or not, or whether you can change that. Okay, so this is another interesting one that a lot of people have been talking about. I've found it quite fascinating, is pornography. Okay, age verification for pornography. All right, let's unpack that all together.
That one's deep.
And then
there's a whole lot to go here.
Yeah, whether or not it is constitutional that a state require for there to be an individual uploading, their driver's license or some kind of verification other than, are you 18? Yes, I'm 18. Because anybody can say they're 18. Yeah,
sure.
They do.
Yeah, I mean,
they do.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yes,
18. All
You
I
got a
have to do is
14-year-old
say I'm 18.
kid going through that stage in life. They're going to hit yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so then let's talk about this. Okay. It's not the same. Okay. Every last one of us remember a time in which for somebody to access pornography was that you had to go into a store and you had to buy it. Okay. There was no online access. All of us remember this time. Not saying that we did
there was
this.
Sears categories with people with
Or you could sneak onto the neighbor's farm. Find his stash.
oh shoot.
But let's say okay, at that
Just
point in time, it was fairly controlled. Okay, so if a youth wanted to acquire this material, they had to go into a store, provide a driver's license of some kind or an ID to prove that they were over the age of 18 and therefore purchase this product. Okay. Now it's online at everybody's fingertips.
So where during that time were there laws in place that age restricted that?
There were.
Okay.
Yes, there definitely were, and still to this day, I believe, to access pornographic material, especially in the state of Kansas, you have to be 18 or older. But because you can just access this pornographic material online, then there's no way for the state to regulate or control that. So they passed laws that said, hey, if you're going to have pornographic material be accessible via the internet in the state of Kansas, let's say, then you're going to have some kind of an age verification requirement for that to be the case. Is that a state issue again? Or is that...
You got to ask yourself if this is a federal issue or not. But there is so much here.
Yeah, unpack that one.
It's thick.
So I'm going to say something that's going to be kind of shocking to some people, because people who know me know my background and they know, man, I'm a churchgoer.
Yeah.
They know that I'm a lifelong Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when I say that, I mean, I am a follower of Jesus Christ.
It means you're perfect.
No, I am
Everything
not
we
perfect.
said, now we're canceled.
I am ridiculously.
He said Jesus Christ online.
Ridiculously.
They're going to take us down.
Ridiculously not perfect.
Oh, you're not like me then.
So,
Or like
Yeah.
me. Or like me. See, my job is to cast judgment.
with that as my background, one of my heroes is Larry Flint.
Interesting.
Well,
fight?
The fight. Yeah, I know exactly. I know Chad. Yeah.
There is, if you are a lover of the First Amendment, Larry Flint is an absolute hero. And he's a pornographer.
Yeah.
And so I hear this kind of stuff, like, we're going to make you upload your driver's license. Really? I mean, somewhere along the line, there's got to be First Amendment discussion here. There really does.
And it could be that they find out that it does violate people's First Amendment right.
And I'm going to ask, how far are we going to go with this? How far?
Okay, but by the same token,
am I going to have to put an ID into my Roku because I can access rated R movies that have boobs in them? How far are we going to go?
Okay, but then doesn't that? I knew this would happen. I foresaw this in my mind. Okay, but let me go back to what we were just saying to not be hypocritical here. If the state of Kansas wants to require that somebody have a driver's license to be able to view pornography, then why is that not a state issue?
Who's to say it's not?
Does it make it unconstitutional in violation of First Amendment right?
It's a good question. And that might be the question. That might be right there.
Well,
that might be the question for our U.S. Supreme Court.
Yes. But they don't understand.
Because because what we have competing amendments.
And that's probably why it's
if it's a state right issue, and they decide to rule that it's a state right issue, fine,
So
I'm good.
When you log into a site like that in the state of Kansas, how do you know you're in the state of Kansas?
I think they know through algorithms.
Servers.
Obviously. Yeah,
And
servers.
IP addresses
Yes.
and location. Do you know I could be in Pakistan right now in 30 seconds on my phone if I really wanted to
it's
be?
called a VPN.
So you're saying
And you
there's
know
a
our
way
kids
around
know
it.
that, right?
Yeah.
They're
Well,
digital natives.
To tell you the truth, I didn't know that.
Well, and this is the thing, though. Our kids know things that we think they don't know, that they know what to do.
Hey, if I want to download
So there's
illegal
so
movies,
much
I
nuance.
have to use a VPN to do it.
There's
Okay?
so much nuance. There's so much nuance
Yeah.
to what we're talking about. And when you hear, when Zuck goes in front of Congress and you hear them questioning him, as somebody that's been in the industry for a long time, you realize how much people don't know. And how they're asking questions that somebody gave to them, and they formulate this, a lot of times, a stage talk narrative because they want to get their clip for social media, for votes and money raising and things. Unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with.
Yep.
But when you realize that they don't know what they're really asking, and then they sometimes go too far and they start really listening to what they're saying and they start trying to dig in, you realize you don't even know what you're digging out. But you are showing concern, so you know something's up, but you have no idea what you're talking about. And it's sad to watch Zuck be able to play with them and then know what his statements need to be in what little areas to keep him from getting in trouble. But that guy totally knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He knows the answers to the questions right there that they ask, but he has his role to play too, right? So it's
Right.
this big theater show.
Yeah.
So they do as minimal as I got you. He can't allow that. It's going to happen a little bit, but he can't allow too much of it, right? Because of his brand and his reputation and his stakeholders and his shareholders, all these things. But what I'm going at this is there's so many layers for the federal government to want to really do something real about this that's not sensationalized or not for votes or not for fundraising and money grabs and lobbying. It's just sad and it's pathetic because people really don't know. Like, if your kid wanted to do California, he doesn't have to get in a car and travel there to get on a porn site.
Yeah.
He'll jump on a VPN or he'll jump on a server that's coming out of California, and they can jump on their computers and get this stuff done.
So what you're saying is these laws are useless.
They're going to be useless in this world, in this environment.
It's interesting that you say,
So
because
let me
really
give you
the internet is off the chain.
I'll give you a real life example because I did it, right? I did this. I don't remember the reason we took the trip. I do know that I was PO'd, that it happened during the playoffs, and I was making money. Okay? And so here I am. I'm sitting in the middle of flipping Minnesota. There's no legal gambling in Minnesota. And so I'm trying to get through to my bookies. Because at the end of the day, that's what they are. FanDuel and MGM and their bookies. So I'm trying to get some money down to try and help pay for this doggone trip. Okay? That's what I'm doing. And everything is blocked. Why is it blocked? Because I'm in Minnesota and it's not legal there, but it's legal in Kansas, and they are able to actually control which sites I'm using, right? Because only blessed sites are legal.
Right.
So what's Chad do? He downloads a VPN.
Yes.
Okay.
And it took me about 10 minutes to get the download, get it configured, and now all of a sudden, instead of being in the middle of BFE, Minnesota, everybody thinks I'm in Topeka.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm able to get all my bets down.
Well, and I'll throw
I
something.
lost them all, by the way, but I was able to do it.
Just blowing our mind here, okay, with this internet, and a lot of things that we're talking about have to do with the internet, okay? So at what point, before we move on to something else, I just was thinking about this. At what point will we be in a situation that if you are from Kansas, you go to Colorado and you want to purchase, let's say, marijuana, that they will not be able to sell it to you with the state ID of Kansas? Where does this slippery slope end? Okay, so
Good question.
Speaking of things that are supposed to be decided by the Supreme Court, there's two more I want to catch before the end of the program. So which one? I guess we got to pick one, and we can do the other one next week or something, or I'll maybe do something during the week. But right now, the country of Mexico is trying to sue Smith & Wesson because Smith & Wesson guns are being found in Mexico, which is illegal to purchase in Mexico. So what they're doing is they're trying to sue the manufacturer as the responsible party, although Smith & Wesson is not physically selling their guns in Mexico.
And what jurisdiction is the lawsuit?
Be here in the United States. Mexico is suing Smith & Wesson
But again,
it's made its way to the Supreme Court.
That's so silly.
I mean,
But they're hearing it. They're hearing it. And it made its way up to it.
And what state?
I do not know that.
Because that's going to matter.
That is I'll tell you.
Let me tell you, it's probably going to be California or
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So where that might not
That's the
find
game
its
we've
way.
been playing
Yeah,
lately.
and it's interesting too because it might not find its way through the courts in Texas, but it found its way through the courts in California. So then there's this.
But then it's going to go
discrepancy.
through the process where then it gets shot up to the Supreme Court,
Yes.
and the Supreme Court goes,
right. So in this
But they're going
Yeah.
through the process.
Yeah, in this case, the Supreme Court definitely needs to be playing a role here, right? I mean, they are the top court of the land, and when
To interpret the law, not
Yes.
write the law.
Yeah.
but
Let's remember
they
that,
are the
yes.
top court,
Because people get that twisted, by the way.
Yes.
Just
Oh,
want
yeah.
to be clear.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
and since they are the top court in the land, and we're dealing with a lawsuit that was generated by another sovereign nation, there is no better place for this to be decided. That's who needs to be doing it.
Okay, now speaking of guns, because that was awful short, right? I mean, that we all came to a consensus that was a little bit.
I mean, we could get into the weeds about the merit of suing a gun company before,
Yeah.
I mean, we sue McDonald's because the coffee's too hot. I mean, come on, seriously, people.
Or you sue McDonald's because you're overweight.
Yes, there you go. That's a great,
It actually
great
happened.
example.
Somebody
It did
took that
happen.
to court, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, stop eating my Big Macs.
yeah,
Yeah.
like have a little self-control.
And they-
Take off the special sauce.
You know what the sad part is? They won.
Yeah.
Now they didn't get anything and everything that they wanted out of that, but they ended up winning the court case because they blame McDonald's because they were overweight, and it was right down to how they made their chicken nuggets. They were complaining about how the chicken nuggets were made, and yada 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 yada.
yeah.
So now here we have somebody
like the
suing a
chicken
gun
nuggets.
company for how their product is being used and not from them. It's stupid.
So just quickly, okay, do you guys think that a fill in the blank, especially let's be specific with guns, okay? Do you guys think that if I purchase a gun from Cabela's. Okay, I go to Cabela's. A lot of people buy guns at Cabela's. So I go to Cabela's, I buy a gun. It's a Smith & Wesson, and then I go out and do harm with that gun. Should Cabela's and or Smith & Wesson be held legally liable for what I choose to do with that gun?
My opinion would be no.
Okay. Chad?
No.
Okay.
So, let's draw a parallel. Can we, the United States, can we start suing the makers of fentanyl in Mexico?
Ooh. Nice.
Well, good luck with that.
Or in China, because it passes through.
Sure.
And then Mexico manufacturers.
Now, I will say this.
Pick one.
I will say this. It's quite possible that in federal and in international court, the answer to that might be yes.
Depending on what you're involved with and what angles you're going to take, and it's just a lot of waste of
And
time.
if we
common sense.
if we can, why don't we?
Well, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
All right. Speaking of guns,
because the maker, once it's made, and they hand it off to somebody, they have no control over where that goes. Okay?
I don't disagree.
So that's why I look at these kinds
I
of
wish you
lawsuits
could
and just
sue
go,
the local drug
nah.
dealer when people die. That would probably change the game a little bit.
Yeah. But isn't there such things of everything that we're
Like
talking
the person
about?
who
Or do
actually
we-
handed it to them.
But you
Or do
can.
we sue the sheriff's
Yeah.
department because they didn't catch 'em?
Well, I'll throw this one to you. I'll
Just
throw
the
this
local
to you.
one. Let's just do the one reach through.
But Andy, this is law. Okay. For instance, if I give you fentanyl, and Chad knows that I gave you fentanyl, and then you die of a fentanyl overdose, and Chad tells the police Lance gave Andy that fentanyl, then I am criminally responsible for not only giving you that fentanyl, but for you being deceased.
So I'm a street kid. And so this is going to go against my upbringing. But I know how those guys think. And I know how those places and those groups work. And if there was more of that happening, because I agree that should happen, which is going to piss a lot of people I know off. But it is what it is, because in my life today, I know that would keep some people from engaging in those style of drugs that are literally killing people.
Yeah.
Because fentanyl is the next level ridiculousness.
Yeah.
I mean, screw fentanyl dealers all the way.
Yeah.
Screw the whole industry and everybody who's a part of it. It's bad enough. The heroin and cocaine hurt a lot of people, and it's still hurting a lot of people. But that fentanyl add-in is so beyond reasonable. It's just not even a recreation anymore. People are dying from one little shot, from one mixture that's not right. And so that just takes things for me and to a whole nother level. And so I think people need to be afraid if somebody's going to die if they're selling them that drug. And it would probably reduce those transactions, in my opinion.
Okay, now we're coming up against the deadline here, so I want to real quick, before we give our final words. And I didn't even know this was possible, so I'm just going to say, self-assembled gun kits bypassing federal verifications on buying guns. Okay, so technically now, they call them ghost guns, okay? But technically what can happen is, and I'm going to totally butcher this, but I think people will understand the line of thinking here. If a gun, just so those people that don't know, is multiple different pieces that then are put together to make the gun. Okay, there's different pieces, just like a car or anything that's manufactured. So if an entity wants to sell 15 different parts to a gun, you buy all 15 parts and get them shipped to your house, and then you assemble it yourself, then in some way or another, this can bypass federal regulations for going. I mean, the internet's off the chain, fellas.
Yeah,
and I know I'm not saying this right because there was a little bit more to it, but it also was, I'm going to say it was a little bit over my head. Okay.
So is it you no longer need an FFL?
See, and that's the
Is
slippery
it-
Not to buy
slope.
the parts.
Yeah,
Well, but
not to buy the parts.
you can
maybe
use
one part.
Well,
a
but
printer
if
nowadays.
you-
That's
and
another
make them
one.
off of that.
And
So
I-
you really don't even need to buy
Yes.
the
If
parts.
you-
You just need to
And
if you're out there
that's
trying
correct.
to buy, for example, AR-15 parts, you can buy just about anything. But if you want the receiver,
You need the.
you need an FFL, or you need somebody that has one.
Okay, but unless, now like Andy said, to group it with what Andy said, now once again, this is a little over my head, so if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, okay? But you can use a 3D printer to print a receiver. So if
In
you
theory,
do
yes.
that,
You totally could.
if you do that, then that means that, well, you are able to get a receiver without it going through a federal firearms background check. Wild world we live in, guys. I'm telling you, and then with the thing that I
let's
think
just
is crazy.
Legislate
let
the
me
internet.
Let me inject.
That's the only way that we can do it.
You're talking about gun kits, right? And I know a couple of people who have made use of gun kits. All right. One is a law enforcement officer. Okay. And, if you got enough money and you know him well enough, he'll invite you over to the garage and you can build an AR-15, right? If you want to. But again, because of what he does for a living, everything's going to be on the up and up and on the legals.
Right. Yeah.
The other person I know that uses gun kits, he purchases these things because he wants to build historical weapons. Old muzzle loaders, you name it. That's what he wants. Okay? So ask yourself if, when we parse this out, exactly, in all honesty, what we're talking about. If we're talking about a guy who wants to build an old muzzle loader to hang on the blasted wall, who frickin' cares?
It's like a hobby or an art.
Yes.
Yeah, which is cool.
I mean, seriously, who cares? And a lot of those kits that he buys, he has to do a heck of a lot of work to make sure that it can even be fired. Because when it's sold, it's not.
Interesting.
So I'm just saying, I mean, there's a lot to unpack on this particular one, right? And I mean, straight up, we're talking about, if you're talking about background checks and all this other stuff, again, we're talking about something that has been completely ineffective to accomplish what the goal is. Straight up, there is nothing that we will ever be able to do through our legal process and our process of writing laws that will prevent bad guys from getting guns.
Yeah. Except
It's just not gonna happen.
Only law-abiding citizens follow laws.
Right.
All right. Okay. Chad, give me your final word.
Final word. My son ran in the home cross country meet, the only home cross country meet that is hosted by Newton High School last week, and it was a joy to watch. And I'm struck that the course that most of the runners really despise, which is through Centennial Park and across the street and yada yada yada. You get like the absolute best pictures of cross country for. But I'm super proud of all those kids that were a part of that cross country meet, because they've all set goals and they've all gone on and met them, and in some cases exceeded them.
Very cool.
So there's my final word.
Andy, final word?
I like the topics and how you went through that today. I would like to get a little faster, but that was cool. Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. I really appreciate it. I love speaking with you guys, and it's become a treat to hang out and discuss with you, discuss some of these topics. I did have parent-teacher conferences yesterday, and so with my parent hat on, I can tell you that everybody I met with yesterday, even some teachers that you hear questionable things about out in the public and through the little grapevines that exist because people do what they do, right? I was really impressed. I mean, we have some amazing humans at those schools serving our kids. And every single teacher I met with, especially the ones that challenged my kids, I was pleasantly surprised And I'm not trying to be I'm just being honest about the level of human being that's in front of our kids. And I just feel so much more confident after being a parent and experiencing their day-to-day experiences, seeing their classrooms, seeing what they walk into every day, and how they're cared for, frankly, as people, as humans. And then kind of a kudos to hear that they're good humans and good people, and that they listen and follow instructions, and they try their best to not be ruggedy teenagers, because it's going to happen, right? But no, but I'm just super proud of USD 373 in general, and the energy is so good right now. We have so much opportunity, and I sometimes say the education system's in trouble, but we have great people behind it, and I believe in the future of that system. We got a lot of work to do, but I think they know it, and the day-to-day interactions are good. And I think if we focus on the possibilities, not the challenges, there's a lot of opportunity there. So anyways, that's my final word.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
I'll just say, to button it up, we live in a wild, wild world, and it gets faster and moves faster every single day. So keep your eyes wide open, stay as informed and educated as you possibly can, make good decisions, and love on your neighbor, folks, because those are the people that are actually in your life.